This is the Heart of LAFC podcast. Bonus episode with Calen Carr.
The City of Angels is black and gold. You are listening to the Heart of LAFC podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Jerry Jimenez and Joseph Zacher.
What is up? Welcome to the Heart of LAFC podcast. This is a special episode of the Heart of LAFC. We have a special guest today, Mr. Calen Carr from MLS.com. He is on The Movement. He is on Extra Time Radio. He is on This Week in MLS. He's all over the place when it comes to covering our league, and so we had an opportunity to talk to him recently. So this is a very special episode. It was a nice short conversation with him, but I wanted to do something different and separate that from the rest of the show, which ended up being a little bit longer than we wanted to, and that's episode 103. So make sure you check that out if you want to listen to other stuff. But this is a great conversation with Mr. Calen Carr. Hopefully you guys enjoy. All right, today we're excited to have a gentleman who, for the past few years, has been telling some of the best stories of our league, its teams, its players, and most importantly, actually, its communities. But he has actually quite a story himself. This gentleman began his soccer career playing up top for UC Berkeley, then went on to play for Orange County Blue Star in the USL before moving on to MLS with Chicago Fire and the Houston Dynamo. The man, the myth, the legend joins us right now, Mr. Calen Carr. How are you, sir?
Hey, thanks so much for the kind introduction. I have been trying to talk with you guys for a while to say, hey, when can I come on the show? We're waiting for the right opportunity. And with the release of this movement episode with LAFC, it felt like now was finally the time. So thanks again for having me on. I'm in New York, so if you hear any crazy songs, I apologize. But it's awesome to be on the show finally.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for taking the time with us. I know you're very, very busy and you have to get ready. So let's just go ahead and just jump into it, man. I want to start out real quickly asking you if you could give us maybe a quick overview. I know there's a lot that goes into your career, but maybe just a quick rundown of your career and how you got to where you are now, your position now within MLS, starting with your college days.
Yeah, I guess sometimes I've been reflecting on that a little bit. It's hard not to when you see what LAFC are doing, and you go to the bank and you see the crowd and the stadium downtown and everything. I almost find it unrecognizable that this is the same MLS that I played in. Yeah. I'm a little bit jealous about it, to be honest. But I grew up in Berkeley. I ended up going to college there, and my mom was a professor at Berkeley, so I basically grew up on campus. But afterwards, got an opportunity to play in MLS during college. I was down in Orange County playing with a whole bunch of players. Actually, Jordan Harvey and I were teammates when we were like 18, 19 years old. So to see him still doing it at the highest level is pretty cool. Wow. That team I played on in Orange County was pretty sick. We had him, myself, Sasha Cleston, Kai Kamara. Dan Kennedy was our goalkeeper at the time. We had Brad Evans. We had a pretty stacked team. Robbie Rogers played with us. So we were pretty loaded. So it was pretty fun to kind of sort of begin all of our careers in Orange County, and then got to play for the Fire, played there 5 years, had some good seasons, went down to Houston, went to 2 MLS Cups, lost to the Galaxy both times. So I've got a little bit of pain there still involved. And then made the transition after finishing playing. Had some injuries with my knees and decided to kind of move on, and luckily found my way through some storytelling, joining MLS on the digital media side, and getting some opportunity to really go deeper into the locker rooms and experiences that I had, getting to know players from all over the world, different backgrounds. I mean, all those names I just mentioned already, each one of those guys has a pretty fascinating, interesting story, different backgrounds from all over the world. So another close friend of mine, John Thorrington, was a teammate and close buddy, carpool mate in Chicago when I was playing for the Fire. And so he brought me down to LAFC actually before, when I was just visiting there, and took me. The first thing he did, there was no, I think the supporters were just starting to get going, getting organized. These were like very early days. And he took me to this little warehouse in downtown LA, took me to watch some, I think, under 12 futsal team. That was the first actual LAFC team. And even then, I could tell that like what was coming, what was being built was pretty special. The idea that these kids could one day eventually play for the first team, and now I see they're like this 6U15 team that actually is like maybe not that far off from making it happen.
Yeah.
So to kind of be there early days, see how LAFC is going, has been special. And for me, that's kind of the best part of what I get to do is just to stay involved, stay in touch with close friends, and try and tell some human stories like that are showing the growth of the league overall.
Yeah, for sure. And if you actually, people that are listening, if you want to check that out, that visit that you did over to the warehouse to watch those players, that's in episode 7 of season 1 of The Movement. If you guys want to go and check that out, we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a sec. Yeah, so now you are here with MLS. Now you do lots of things for MLS as a personality, like this week in MLS with Susanna Collins. You're a consistent guest, been on there quite a few times, and I love it when you're on Extra Time Radio with the rest of the guys as well. But you have you do quite a few things for MLS. I have to say my favorite thing that you're doing, and you have been doing now for 4 seasons with MLS, is a show called The Movement. Can you tell our listeners that for whatever reason haven't heard of it, what is The Movement?
So The Movement kind of began when I first started at MLS. They gave me the opportunity and said, "Hey, we've got the opportunity to do some type of feature show. What would you want to do with that?" And really, I didn't have a ton of experience in video or production or anything like that. But I knew some great people. I knew that I was interested in stories and the experiences, not just what happens on the field and the X's and O's and tactical breakdowns and wins and losses, but a little bit more of the deeper storytelling or the cultural side of the sport. Because even when I played in Houston, the guy to the left of me, Boniek Garcia, was from Honduras. Had an incredible story of coming to the U.S., building a life in Houston, and I would see how the Honduran fans would react to him. He didn't speak English. I was learning Spanish. I've been working on that, so we communicated every day just because we had no other choice but to, because, locker mates, and that's how it goes down in a locker room. And then to the right was Matt Kanji, a guy who is from Senegal, and told me a little bit about his story, learning about what it's like to be Muslim in MLS, and some of that was kind of inspiration for this LAFC piece we just released. So I just had all these different experiences with people and wanted to try and find a way to give life to some of these stories that weren't necessarily being told at that time. I would say the show has changed over time as far as the depth of storytelling, trying to connect it to broader social cultural movements that have either happened historically or are happening now, and then seeing how soccer plays a role in that. So that's been a real fun experience for me so far, and getting a little bit outside of the game and outside the stadiums. There's so many things that are happening, so it's been really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, as I mentioned earlier, in season 1, episode 7 to be exact, you covered the groundbreaking ceremony of our very own Bank of California Stadium. So listeners, make sure you go check that out on YouTube if you haven't already. And then just recently, the movement covered LAFC once again in season 4, episode 3. Episode is titled "Football and Faith: Being Muslim in MLS." Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been kind of cool because I showed up before everything had really popped off in LA for you guys, and like getting a chance to talk to the ownership group and go around and look at this U12 team at the time and seeing what the promise of LAFC could be and the groundbreaking and the star power around it. But as time went on, we realized, hey, there's a lot of change that's happened. There's so many good stories that are happening, and one of which was this story that what it was like to be Muslim in MLS. And I referenced a couple players that I played with Matt Kanji and Kai Kamara, who are Muslim, and feeling like this group necessarily hadn't always been discussed openly or explored more. And really, I came from a place of curiosity myself where I played with guys that were maybe fasting during Ramadan, but I didn't really fully understand the depth of why or what that meant, or even what the religion was all about. And I won't pretend to say that we've covered that in our 18-minute episode, because that would just be impossible to do, and that really wasn't our goal. It was more just to look at the players, specifically at LAFC, with Mohamed El Munir, Diamande, Latif Blessing, and then looking at the club sort of overall and how it stands for diversity and people from different walks of life who have different experiences, and how those different experiences not only can contribute to an interesting dynamic in the locker room, but maybe even make the team function better on the field. I just think when I look back on my playing experience, and I remember the best teams I went on that went to MLS Cups, there was always something deeper, a bond deeper amongst the team, where you really understood who the person was next to you. As I felt on those Houston teams, where I knew what Boniek was about. I trusted him. I wanted to stand up for him, whether that was, on the field, off the field, whatever he might be going through in his transition coming to the U.S. And I felt the same coming back to him just as a friend. And I sense that with the LAFC team, and a lot of it starts with Bob Bradley and his experience coaching in Egypt. Zach Abdel, the goalkeeper coach, is from Egypt as well. Their understanding of these two sort of at times disparate worlds or places that people think are disconnected, but how that comes together. LA, like, that's kind of what LA is, right? It's a bunch of different worlds coming together in one place around the sport. So I don't think that's I don't think it's a coincidence that LAFC is not only has all the skill and really talented players, but there's something deeper that's pushing this team beyond, and that's what we tried to explore.
Absolutely, and like you said, at least if nothing else, you get that conversation going, where people can actually be exposed to these sorts of things, and I think that's what I love about the movement so much, because it happens, throughout the league. It's not just here in LAFC; it's everywhere, and even I think you've covered even past MLS into even USL. I believe didn't you visit Sacramento at one point?
Yeah, we did Sac Republic. We've gone to Jackson, Mississippi to see where some players are from. Marlon Harrison, who plays for Houston, actually. And then we went to Hawaii with Brian Ching to look at kind of how undiscovered talent. This was right after missing the World Cup. Like, how can we find players from as far as you could imagine and create an environment where maybe they could contribute or get access or opportunity to playing soccer. So we've gone all over. We went to Costa Rica last summer. We've gone all over. So
that's awesome.
Around markets and outside of them, I think there's as coming back to LAFC proved to me, there's always an opportunity to find a good story, even if you've been to the place already or you think you've sort of been there and done that. There's always something changing.
Yeah, and one of the things too that I've heard you actually from the beginning, and we mentioned you're part of Extra Time at the beginning of this season. We ended kind of on a sour note. I think we still did pretty good our first season, but coming into this second season, you spoke very highly of our MVP, Carlos Vela, of our captain. You were saying you're actually calling him MVP, I believe, at one point before, obviously, he was at the level that he's at right now. You kind of just saw that coming.
I'm glad somebody noticed. There you go.
Yeah. So, of course, it definitely, they want to know how you're feeling about that prediction so far, and then also maybe just your overall thoughts on LAFC and where we are now, since you have gotten to see us from before there really was no club.
Yeah, well, I feel great about that prediction right now, to be honest with you. I think, I may never make another prediction again, to be honest. You just have to retire after this one. But I actually don't think it was that bold. I was surprised that people, oh, here comes the siren. I told you I was in New York.
That's New York for you.
Sorry about that. Yep. Sorry about that. I was surprised that people were a little bit surprised by that prediction, because to me, once Almiron had left, there was kind of one clear person as far as who you would choose as a preseason prediction. And as far as talent goes, I don't think there was really anybody close to Carlos. And I think last year was a little bit difficult because so much of it being a World Cup year was about him getting in good form, getting adjusted to a new environment. He started so strong, but it was kind of all building towards this marker of the World Cup. He had a tremendous World Cup, man of the match against Germany. As time went on, to me, at least when I was watching from afar, it felt like this LAFC team, for an understandable reason, was built as the season progressed, right? So you didn't necessarily get Christian Ramirez or get Diamande till later. There were moves. Lee Win came in. There was a lot of changes as the season went on. Then you see Simon leave. So it was all very much in flux. And I think that affected how the team did down the stretch run, and then ultimately they learned a hard lesson in the first round of the playoffs. But I remember sitting there at MLS Cup last year, and I guess I get asked to do predictions a lot, which I don't generally like to do. But at the end of MLS Cup, they sort of just surprised us. And he was like, "Who do you think is the MLS Cup prediction?" Which in MLS is very difficult to do year to year.
Oh, yeah.
And the first thing that popped up was LAFC. I'm trying to find the tape for it, but basically, when I look at what Atlanta did from year one to year two, just building that continuity, building that connection, and then also learning a hard lesson even in the knockout stage of the playoffs at home. Very similar story. And then when you see the progression from year one to year two, how the system sinks in, how the confidence sinks in, I thought LAFC from the beginning of the year had an opportunity. I didn't know it was going to be this good, and I think they still have a ways to go. But I felt like the formula was always there for them to begin.
Yeah, man. It's always good to see how other people outside of the club supporters feel about our club, and so yeah, it's good to hear that. I mean, as a supporter going into a season, you can only hope that a club would be as good as we have been. And I think Joseph and I, my co-host on the show, we kind of joke around about it, but we're kind of waiting for, like, when are the wheels going to just fall off, because this is just too good. And we've been around the league long enough to know that MLS is going to MLS, as they say. And like you said, you just can't predict. So it's been fun, it's been exciting. And with those moves, just like you mentioned last season, going even into the middle of the season especially, there was quite a bit of change within the club, people leaving, players moving, and this season's no different. I mean, maybe not as many changes, and I think that we have our solid foundation. But recently we had some changes in bringing in Brian Rodriguez, and rumored to be getting a new left back in Diego Palacios from Ecuador. I think maybe by the time we release this episode, it'll be official. But also, we sent Christian Ramirez to a club that you're very familiar with in Houston Dynamo. So what are your thoughts on these moves by LAFC? What do you think? Do you think it was smart to move on from Christian Ramirez? Maybe we're kind of looking at, is Dio going to be the man up there? Are we going to have Brian Rodriguez up there and then find a way of making maybe Vela and Rossi, just the three of those play up front, which just in that gives me chills. But kind of want to know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got some good options, and that's the growth of MLS at this point, is that when you see Rodriguez come in, and if you look at the teams that have really been able to go deep in the playoffs and potentially win it all, it's not usually just one player, because you've already seen in some of these matches where LAFC have had trouble, it's been a lot of physical play on Carlos and really trying to rough him up and focus your attention on him. And as the season wears on, you just need to have that balance. And Rossi's been big with that. Ramirez has been good as well. I think he's a great pickup for Houston Dynamo. I think he fits with the style of play that they want to play. And I think just when a guy can score goals, he can score goals. But I think Diamande, for me, gives LAFC a little bit more as far as his energy, his ability to really push things, and I think he fits with that team well. So I think giving him the keys is probably a good route to go, but you now have a wealth of options to be even a little bit of like continue to push each other and get forward. So I think they've done you can't really complain much about what LAFC have done to build things. I think the big challenge for them, to me, is a little bit more mental, where when you get to these bigger matches, and I think when you see teams kind of clamp down against you and in these knockout formats, whether it's the Open Cup or MLS Cup playoffs, and it's not so much always about the beautiful football, can they find a way mentally to navigate those matches, bunker down, even if you need to play a little bit more counterattacking style, the way we saw Atlanta United do it in the playoffs last year. I think that would suit LAFC. It's just a matter of whether they feel comfortable trying to switch things up, or if they want to stick to the script as far as counter pressing and keeping possession. And I think that there's a couple big mental hurdles that they still have yet to conquer, whether it's beating the Galaxy or whether it's winning those types of matches. I think that's still to be determined, but I think that's a good problem to have, because everything else looks pretty good for them, whether it's the roster or the style of play. and they're running away with the supporter shield right now.
Yeah, we're very excited. Obviously, I mean, it goes without saying we've had a great season so far. Hopefully, we can finish it up and in the right foot. And you said that you can't really complain too much. And unfortunately, on social media, if you go on there, there's people still complaining, man. I still don't get it. But I guess it's gonna happen.
That's just being a sports fan. That's just being a sports fan. Like, if you love your team, I was actually hanging out here in New York with a buddy of mine who's got two young boys and season tickets to LAFC games, and he was just talking about the experience of going to matches, and he was just like, I just don't know how do we get past the Galaxy? Like, how do we beat these guys? We're such a better team than them. Like, why didn't we play well? And I'm like, hey, man, like, you guys are running away with the table right now. I know you want to beat them. It's going to happen at some point. But that's just the passion of being a sports fan. It's hard to not demand even better. And I know just from being on these teams, so they however the fans are feeling, they are feeling the same thing. If not even more so. So the problem is, and there are some MLS teams out there where it's like it feels like the fans maybe aren't as invested as they could be. So the idea that like fans are getting at you on social media or pushing you to be better, that's a nice problem to have.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I agree with you. Well, Calen, listen, we're really, really honored that you gave us a few minutes of your time here. Now, you're a very busy man, so I have one more question for you. It's kind of a two-parter. First, what can we expect coming up from the movement? I know obviously you're in season 4 now. What can we expect coming from the movement, as well as is there any chance that we get to see a return of the goatee?
Oh, boy. Not if my girlfriend has anything to say about it. I mean, I just showed her a couple of photos, and she's been horrified. So, as am I, to be honest. It's like, addition by subtraction. But, definitely no promises on the GOAT. That was not a good look for me. The team had to do, like, prison beards for the playoffs, and mine was just a little too authentic. So that was all I could grow. But as far as the movement, I mean, the biggest thing is really just trying to get the word out there. I think sometimes we spend so much time making this thing and not enough maybe promoting it or pushing the word out to get people to see it. So coming on a podcast like this and getting the word out to fans that are passionate about LAFC, that want to know more about their players, whether it's Mohamed or Dio or Latif or the coach, or kind of what it's like behind the scenes within the team, is something that I'm definitely focused on right now. And we've got a couple more episodes to shoot and film, one in Minneapolis that we've just shot. I'm already working on now around their Pride match in Colin Martin's story. And always looking for new ideas. So if fans want to hit me up on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that, definitely track me down and send me some cool ideas.
Awesome. Yeah, make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. It's on YouTube under the MLS Soccer page. And you can actually go back and watch all the seasons. You're going to want to. You're probably going to want to go and just watch them all at once. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, we've got a playlist on YouTube. So yeah, you binge watch away. Please check them all out. Yes. Let me know what you think.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for your time, Calen. Hope to talk to you again soon, and keep up the great work, man, with MLS and the movement.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate the support, man. I'll hope to catch up when I come to the bank next time.
Oh, you got it. Sounds good. All right, bye.
All right, later on.
All right, welcome back. So just wanted to really quickly say thank you to you guys for checking that out. Thank you for the time that you spent listening to us. And special thank you to Mr. Calen Carr, of course, for spending the time with us and taking time out of his very, very busy schedule. When I was talking to him, he was actually getting ready to record over at MLS headquarters in New York. So we appreciate your time, sir. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. We're going to try to do a few more of these types of shows. That's going to do it for us. You've been listening to the Heart of LAFC podcast. Stay golden.
Thank you for listening to the Heart of LAFC. Make sure to leave us a rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher. Shoulder to shoulder, the black and gold is taking over.